I'm Debbie Lana and I'm Head of Practice here at CIH.
Hi, I'm David Pipe, I'm a Policy and Practice Officer.
Hi, I'm Melanie Rees, I'm Head of Policy. I think a big topic that there's been a lot of media coverage on over the last week or so has been the Select Committee report on extending the right to buy to housing associations, and that's a subject we're really concerned about. We were really pleased that they referred to our research in the debate that they had, and we've also included that in our budget submission for the Chancellor's spring budget statement in March. We're concerned that extending the right to buy to housing association tenants, whilst that's a positive thing, will lead to a net reduction in homes for social rent unless the government puts in some extra money to top things up. So the idea is councils will sell their most valuable properties to fund the right to buy replacement for the housing association tenant, also the home that they've sold, plus put some money into a brownfield regeneration fund, and we're concerned that there probably won't even be enough money to replace the housing association property without extra funding. So we think every year there'll probably be about 7,000 social rented homes lost, which is a real concern because we know how great housing need is at the moment. We know there are more and more people in temporary accommodation for longer periods, and that's a real concern.
Yeah, and I think another big area of work for us at the moment has been local housing allowance caps and the proposal to extend them to the social sector. So this will mean that from 2018, social tenants will only get enough housing benefit to cover them for the equivalent of a private rented property that's in the cheapest 30% in the area. And we're really concerned about the impact that will have, particularly on supported housing. So rents in supported housing are typically a lot higher because these are schemes that provide not just housing but also care and support for some of the most vulnerable people in our communities, older people, victims of domestic violence, people with certain disabilities, people who've been affected by homelessness. So because of the extra care and support needs they have, rents there are higher, and some of these schemes could be facing quite large shortfalls in terms of how much housing benefit will cover. And our concern is that if those schemes aren't exempt from this measure, that many of them will be forced to close.
I think another thing as well that we've been talking about and has been in the headlines in the national press and in the Sunday papers has been pay to stay. It's been made, it's going to be voluntary for housing associations now, but it's still going to be mandatory for local authorities. And what pay to stay is, it means when a household income reaches a certain threshold, which is £30,000 outside of London and £40,000 in London, £40,000 in London, then rents could potentially increase to market rent. And that's really, really challenging because, say, outside of London, £30,000 income between, say, two people is only £15,000 each, and the increase in rent for social housing properties could go from something like £550 a month up to £1,500 a month, which is a massive increase. As with a lot of the legislation, the detail is yet to be unveiled. We don't really know how it works, whether there'll be some tapers. But there's been lots of, this is going to affect real people who are may potentially going to move out of their property but still won't be able to afford the private rented sector because the rents will be equivalent. I had an email from someone this morning, a tenant in a council housing, who's basically just found out about this policy and is really, really scared about it, how it's going to impact on her, whether she's going to have to move. She's heard all sorts of rumours about it. So I think there's a big job for us about getting some myth busting out there and trying to let people know what's going on and how it's going to impact on them on the ground, as well as to continue to influence government to maybe rethink this policy, because we don't believe it's a sensible policy decision, and if they're not going to try and mitigate some of the worst impacts of it. So I think that's really important for us again this week.